So in this video, I just like to look at one more example regarding Haskell's type classes. And the example that I'm going to look in this video, I'm going to pull this example from a um, really wonderful book on Introduction to Haskell, which is basically Learn You A Haskell. So I highly encourage you guys to at least read this book if you're really interested in getting familiar with and learning more about Haskell. Is called Learn You A Haskell, and you can get this book. Actually, this book is also available online for free, and you can actually go to learnyouhaskell.com and you can actually access the entire book on that website. But from this book, there's one specific example that I found really useful in studying about type classes, and I'm just going to reproduce that example from that book over here. So there is a type class called tofu. So let's do this. Let's just reproduce this over here. So there's a type class called tofu, and and we're going to so this is basically the formal definition of my type class tofu, and let's do this. Let's just complete this with one property or one behavior, and the behavior is that it has uh, the the type signature for the method tofu, and the method tofu over here takes in one parameter and gives you back something as an output, which is over here. All right. So first thing, I mean, this definitely looks a little complicated. It looks complicated in the sense that um, uh, what is this? What is this parameter? What is this parameter that is being fed into this method tofu? And I have something called JA, and in some sense, at least from a very high level, it looks like there's a type constructor involved over here, and maybe J is acting as a type constructor, and there is one input over here which has a type of JA, and it gives you back some other output from this method which happens to have a type of TAJ. So I agree, this looks a slightly complicated, and what we're going to do now is we're going to little bit distill this further by using what you have learned in the previous videos, that is basically trying to look at the kind. So again, some of the things that we've learned in the last video is we've looked at values in particular. We have looked at types that are attached to values, which are basically just called types. And then there's a type to a type, which is called a kind. Okay, so given this type world, if in a type world, if this is the signature of the method tofu, my first question would be, what are the types? What are the types that would actually fit in this JA, and what are the types that I would get back that belongs in this type of TAJ? Now again, one other thing that I know is, because this is a type world, I know that whatever JA is, it has to be a concrete type. So the kind for JA has to be a star, and the kind for the entire TAJ also has to be a star, because these are concrete types. These are actually in the type world. So what I can do at this point is I can say that, okay, the type for A over here is basically, I can assume that the type for A, my A in this case, is basically star. So for A, I'm going to assume it's a star, meaning A is a concrete type. If A is a concrete type, then the kind for J is something that takes in a concrete type. Okay, J over here takes in as an input a concrete type and gives you back out this entire new concrete type. So it's technically acting as a type constructor, or it's think of it as a kind of a special function, or in this case, a special function being a type constructor that takes in a concrete type as an input, and it gives you back as an output another concrete type. And that's basically what J is. So if I know what A is, if I know what J is, now I can kind of put together to figure out what T is. So T T is a type constructor. T is a type constructor that basically takes in as an input. It consumes as an the first parameter that it consumes, or the first type that it consumes as an input, is basically A. So it takes in this A as an input. It also then consumes J as an input, and J in this case is takes in a star and gives back out as a star. So the second input to T is this J, and this J over here is a star to a star. And what T does, it gives you back as an output. It gives you back as an output this entire concrete type star. Okay, and let's just use color notations here just to clarify this. So this piece over here, this first star over here, is basically what my A is. This piece over here, this entire thing over here, is basically what my J is. And this is the output. This is the output that you get back after applying A and J to my type constructor T. All right, this is that output over here, the final thing. Okay, so now that I know the kind for what T needs to be, and I can at least start thinking, okay, if I would like to make any type an instance of my type class tofu, what needs to be fed here? What needs to be fed here is, so let's do this. Let me make it a little bit clear. So if I say at some point, okay, I would like to make something an instance, I would like to make something an instance of my tofu. So I'm going to start with instance tofu. And now the thing is, what is that type? What is the type that you want to make an instance of tofu? Now, what gets placed in place of T needs to be something that has the same kind. It has the same kind as what T has. T has a kind going from star to star to a star, giving you back a star. As long as I can get that type that has a kind of this exactly the same thing as T, and then in a position, to have an instance of that instance of my type class tofu created using that type. All right, so that's what I'm planning to do in my next video, where we're going to use our type class tofu. We're going to create some other class, some other type that's going to have the same kind as T, and then use that type to make it an instance of my type class tofu.